It's an honor. Thank you to the runners and to Bubba and Angela and everyone who works to make this event exist and happen so beautifully every year. You do incredible work, and I know every family of every hero is grateful for you. And thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share my story. So I want to start with this bracelet. As many of you know, memorial bracelets became popular in the 70s as a way to honor and remember POW and MIA soldiers during and after the Vietnam War. Today, memorial bracelets are also worn in remembrance of fallen soldiers and loved ones, KIA in Iraq and Afghanistan. Many of you may be wearing one today. I wear this bracelet with my brother's KIA date every day. And after wearing it for nearly every day of 10 years, my feelings about it have evolved. At first, the story behind it was fresh. Most people in my day-to-day life had heard the news. They were aware of the circumstances, and many of them even knew my brother Tom. The bracelet was a silent reminder that as people started getting back to their lives, this was now a part of mine. As years passed, things changed. Co-workers of mine have come and gone, and I've made new friends. Fewer and fewer people in my day-to-day life knew the story, and even fewer of them actually knew Tom. Sometimes someone would notice or compliment my bracelet and ask a few questions, and I'd briefly give them the background and accept their condolences, and then endure an awkward moment in which neither of us really knew how to move forward. They were thinking, is it okay to change the subject now? Do I have to ask more questions? And I'm thinking, did I say too much? Did I say enough? Did I just ruin this person's day? And a few times I've considered just not wearing it anymore. Because after having sparked some incredibly awkward exchanges with perfect strangers, I wondered if all I was really doing was burdening these poor people with a depressing story from a total stranger. I was blindsiding them with the last thing they expected when they offered a harmless, hey, I like your bracelet. But I put it back on every morning because I can't seem to part with it. And I'm learning to navigate those inevitable awkward moments with strangers, and I'm learning how to tell the story in a way that I hope plants a seed of inspiration in them rather than a dark cloud. Because it all boils down to telling the story, Tom's story. And here's the embarrassing and obvious thing that I've learned. It doesn't actually help if I only share Tom's story with people who have already heard it. It's ridiculous to admit, and it's taken me all these years to realize that. I'm a writer, and over the years, I found it harder and harder to find fresh words and a fresh perspective on his story, when all I really needed were fresh eyes to read it, fresh ears to hear it. The story is the story. It doesn't really need much of my help. What it needs is a bracelet to break the ice and some bravery to get the words out. So thank you for being fresh ears for this story today. First Lieutenant Thomas M. Martin died during combat operations October 14, 2007, while serving his country in Iraq. Tom was born October 10, 1980, in Huron, South Dakota. He left South Dakota as a very young boy, went to school for a short time in San Marcos, Texas, and then graduated from high school in Cabot, Arkansas in 1998. That same year, he enlisted in the United States Army, completing basic training and AIT as a field artilleryman at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. In 2000, after an assignment to Camp Stanley in Korea, Tom was accepted for admission to the United States Military Academy. After attending the United States Military Prep School, Tom entered West Point in the fall of 2009. As a West Point cadet, Tom started on the rugby team, was a member of the military tactics team, and earned his parachutist badge by graduating from airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia. Tom majored in military science and graduated with his class in May 2005. He was commissioned as an armor officer and completed the Armor Officer Basic course at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Tom volunteered for Ranger School and graduated, earning his Ranger tag in May 2006. He reported to the 1st Squadron 40th Cavalry Regiment at Fort Richardson, Alaska in June 2006. Tom was assigned as the sniper platoon leader in Crusader Troop and deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in October 2006. First Lieutenant Martin was awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster and the Purple Heart Medal posthumously. His previous awards include the Bronze Star Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Korean Defense Service Medal, the Combat Action Badge, the Parachutist Badge, and the Ranger Tab. As a youth, Tom was active in his church, community, 4-H, high school band, theater, and the Boy Scouts of America, where he attained the rank of Eagle Scout. First Lieutenant Martin is buried in West Point National Cemetery, West Point, New York. He will forever be remembered as a man with undaunted determination who is fiercely dedicated to his men, his mission, and his country. But, like I told him, in the last few quiet minutes we had together during his memorial service that October day nearly 10 years ago, he may be First Lieutenant Thomas M. Martin to a lot of people, but he was Tom to me. He was every bit the brave and dedicated soldier that the Army honors, but he was first a son and a big brother. Tom and I and our 2 younger sisters grew up in a military family. Our dad is a retired sergeant major, and our mom is a retired chief warrant officer. You could say Tom went into the family business. I can remember dinner table conversation as a kid, my parents talking about their day, their work, and while certainly many industries have their own jargon and acronyms, I dare say the military has them all beat. And with both parents in the Army, my siblings and I grew up learning our ABCs right alongside our Alpha Bravo Charlies. Tom knew his whole life he wanted to be a soldier, an officer, and he never lost sight of that. Even after applying to West Point right out of high school and not getting in. Even after applying again 2 years later and agreeing to spend an extra year at the prep school in order to be accepted. Even after spending most of his time at West Point on academic probation. Sometimes I think about all the times it would have been easy to quit, but he never did. It was a long road to graduation for Tom Martin. Natural leader, officer material, just not a big fan of homework. In fact, in 2007, immediately following his death, our family was approached by Cabot High School in Cabot, Arkansas, and together we created a memorial scholarship. But first, we all agreed that while grades should be a factor, if we really wanted to honor Tom's memory, we better not look for straight-A students. The scholarship was established, and each spring we are honored to recognize a young leader like Tom who demonstrates qualities of service and community. I have stories about Tom that would keep us here all day. I write and journal both memories I have of him and now reflections on life without him. Sometimes I write on anniversary and milestone days, but often just on days that a memory or story comes to mind and I need to get it down on paper. Last year, Gold Star families were in the news a bit, and I found myself gathering thoughts about this new normal, this new life for me and my family, and for so many others like us. I certainly don't speak for all Gold Star families, but I have met dozens of Gold Star parents, siblings, spouses, children over the years. And I want to share 3 things that seem universal. 3 things Gold Star families want you to understand as you help us remember our heroes. First, it's complicated. Nearly 7,000 times just since 9/11, the country, the military, lost a soldier, an airman, a Marine. But families lost a son, a daughter, a father, a sister, a husband. And those 2 worlds can be incredibly hard to reconcile. Gold Star families are proud of the ranks, the service, the decorations, but the hole in our lives is in the shape of a person. Time passes and we have to carry on in our new normal. Widows may get remarried and families evolve. Parents have to decide whether to hang that Christmas stocking on the mantle this year, and traditions change. We all have to be ready for innocent small talk. So, tell me about your family. My brother Tom now has 2 nephews that he'll never meet, who are growing up hearing stories of their Uncle Tom and asking hard questions for which there are no answers. My husband and I had been married only a year when Tom died, and the complexity of our family dynamic is now his normal too. None of these things are black and white. None of them are easy, and none of them come with instructions. Gold Star families want you to know that when you talk about the troops, you're talking about our family, and that our family is forever changed. And we need your patience and some time to figure things out. Second, we don't fit a mold. My family is a Gold Star family and a military family. My parents are both retired from the Army, and my brother Tom planned to spend his career in the service. I grew up within the context of the military, and after Tom was killed, my family founded a nonprofit to support the people and places and causes important to Tom and to tell his story. But many Gold Star families don't look like us. There are Gold Star families that were otherwise unfamiliar with the military or even hesitant with their loved ones' enlistment. There are Gold Star families who distance themselves from the military community because it causes pain or confusion or stress. Some of us will become active and vocal, establishing foundations and attending events like this one. Others will not need or want that kind of fellowship or that level of formality, and they'll remain much more private. How visible we are and how often we participate or speak up in public is not a reflection of how much we're grieving or how deeply our hearts are broken. Gold Star families want you to know you shouldn't make assumptions about us based on how we grieve. And we need your unconditional support. And the third thing I want to leave you with is that we are terrified the world will forget them. They say everyone dies twice. Once, when you stop breathing. And again, the last time someone says your name. For Gold Star families, this is our worst nightmare. We've already lost our soldiers, our heroes, our loved ones to death once. We know that we have a job to do and stories to tell to be sure our heroes don't die twice. We say their names, we tell their stories, we wear t-shirts and establish scholarships and run races, all because we can't bear to think of them fading away. As long as we keep saying their names, they're never truly gone. We don't just want you to remember their Purple Heart or their KIA date. We want you to remember that they laughed and they loved and they lived. Their deaths are not their legacy. Gold Star families want you to know that it's okay to say their names Let's laugh and cry and tell stories together. We never get tired of that. Remember these words. You can't do it wrong. I have said those words many times. I have said them to people I just met, and I have said them to myself in the mirror. You can't do it wrong. If your heart's in the right place, you shouldn't worry about saying or doing the wrong thing. Your intentions will speak for themselves. There are many Gold Star families here today, and I challenge you to shake their hands, listen to their stories, and take their fallen hero's name with you. As long as we keep saying their names, they're never truly gone. Thank you.